Book of Heaven, Volume 17, 4th to the 22nd of January 1925, page 58 to 62. January 4th, 1925. How all of heaven goes to meet the soul who fuses herself in the divine will. How all want to place their acts in her, and the noble martyrdom of the soul is formed. Having completed my whole day, I was thinking to myself, what else is left for me to do? And in my interior, I heard, you have to do the most important thing, your last act of fusing yourself in the divine will. So, according to my usual way, I started to fuse all my poor being in the supreme will, and as I was doing so, it seemed to me that the heavens were opening, and I went to meet the whole celestial court, and all of heaven came toward me. And my sweet Jesus told me, my daughter, fusing yourself in my will is the most solemn act, the greatest one, the most important of all your life. To fuse yourself in my will is to enter the sphere of eternity, embrace it, kiss it, and receive the deposit of the goods which the eternal will contains. Even more, as the soul fuses herself in the supreme volition, all go to meet her, in order to communicate to her all the goods and the glory they have. The angels, the saints, the very divinity, they all communicate, knowing that they communicate in that same will in which everything is safe. Even more, in receiving these goods, the soul multiplies them through her acts in the divine will, and gives back double glory and honor to the whole of heaven. Therefore, by fusing yourself in my will, you put heaven and earth in motion. It is a new feast for the whole heaven. And since to fuse oneself in my will is to love and to give, for each one and for all, without excluding anyone, in my goodness, so as not to be won over in love by the creature, I place in her, in my will, the goods of all, and all the possible goods I contain within me. Nor can there be a lack of space in which to place all the goods, because my will is immense, and is capable of receiving everything. If you knew what you do and what happens when you fuse yourself in my will, you would eagerly yearn to do it continuously. Afterwards, I was thinking about whether I had to write what is written above, or not. I didn't see it as necessary, or as an important thing, more so, since obedience had given me no order to do it. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, how can it not be important to make it known that fusing oneself in my will is to live in it? The soul who fuses herself in my will receives, as though in deposit, all my divine and eternal goods. The very saints compete with each other in order to deposit their merits in the soul fused in my will, because they feel in her the glory, the power of my will, and feel glorified in a divine manner by the littleness of the creature. Listen, my daughter, to live in my will surpasses even martyrdom in merit. Martyrdom kills the body, but living in my will implies that the creature kills her own will with a divine hand, and it gives her the nobility of a divine martyrdom. And every time the soul decides to live in my will, my volition prepares the blow in order to kill the human will, and forms the noble martyrdom of the soul. But in order to reach this happy state, the human will and the divine will must be tied together. One has to give the place to the other, and the human will must be content with remaining extinguished under the power of the divine will. Therefore, every time you dispose yourself to live in my volition, you dispose yourself to undergo the martyrdom of your will. Do you see, then, what it means to fuse oneself in my will? It is to be the continuous martyr of my supreme will. And you think it's trivial, or not important? January 22, 1925. How the humanity of our Lord is the new sun of souls, which covers all the acts of creatures with its light. My life continues in the midst of bitternesses for the privation of my sweet Jesus. I do not know how I can live. I feel a nightmare that crushes me. My very nature, in seeing itself deprived of the one who, alone, used to sustain it, would want to dissolve. And so, now I feel my bones being dislocated, now the channels of my stomach close, in such a way that it does not want to receive either water or food. Poor nature of mine, without Jesus, it wants to bend over and dissolve. But, as it is about to dissolve, a powerful force and a strong hand squeezes me, recomposes my dislocated bones, opens my channels, and prevents my total destruction. O God, what pain! Have pity on my hard destiny. My God, let the one who gave me life come back to me, or let my poor nature pay you the tribute of death, so that my poor soul may rise up there, into the womb of my Jesus, where we will never again separate. Now, as I was in this state of decline, but who knows after how much hardship, my sweet Jesus made himself seen in my interior, seated in the middle of it, all taciturn, with a hand on his forehead, all pensive, isolated, with no one near him. And even though he was in my interior, there was so much space within me that I was far away from him, and he was far away from me. So, I was alone, Jesus was alone. But at any cost I wanted to go near him, say a word to him, keep him company in his loneliness. Then, I don't know how, that space became smaller. It seemed to me that that space was the world, and Jesus was in the center of it. Jesus seemed to be concerned about the destiny of the world, which runs hastily toward its ruin. Even more, Jesus took a point of that space and placed it upon me. I felt crushed under that weight, but I was happy that my Jesus, my life, was close to me. So, in seeing him near me, I wanted to cry so as to move him to pity for my tormenting state. I wanted to tell him who knows how many things. But no, I just said to him, Jesus, do not leave me any more, don't you see that without you I cannot last in this exile? And he, all goodness, I do not leave you, no, no. This is a bad reputation you want to give to your Jesus. I never leave anyone. The creatures withdraw from me, not I from them, rather, I go after them. So, do not want to make me this affront, that I may leave you, ever again. And then, did you not see that I was inside of you, not outside of you, and not only myself, but the whole world? Then, in looking at Jesus, I could see his intelligence as more than a sun, and all the thoughts of Jesus like many rays which came out from that sun, and extending, they went through all the thoughts of the creatures, past, present and future. These rays were moving in order to grab all created intelligences, as though in their power, and to substitute for them as perennial glory to the Father, complete reparation for everything, and impetration of all goods for all created intelligences. Then, drawing me to himself, Jesus said to me, My daughter, this sun you see within the intelligence of my humanity, was formed by my divinity, which endowed me with creative power and all-seeingness of all things, in such a way that I became the new sun of souls. And just as the sun which I created for the good of nature, covers all the earth with its light, without denying to anyone the effects of its light, even though it does not move from the heavens, but unleashes from its center the rays which bring upon earth the goods that the sun contains, in the same way, without departing from me, with its inaccessible light, my divinity formed in me spokes of light. And these rays went through everyone and everything, and so, in every instant, I went through each thought, word and act of all creatures, becoming perennial glory to my Father for each thought, act, word, etc., of all human generations. While rising to the celestial Father, this light descended to grab, as though in its power, all human acts, in order to illuminate them, warm them and repair them. Therefore a light hangs over each human act, wanting to do good to it, continuously. Doing this was as though natural for me. You, my daughter, do not have this power to make one single act out of all acts, as I did. Therefore, in my will, you will go through each one of my rays, one by one, and little by little, you will follow the same path as my humanity. So I tried to go through the first ray, then through the second, and so on with the others. But, oh, power of the divine will! While going through those rays, I was so little that I seemed to have become an atom, and this atom was now in the divine intelligence, going through the intelligences of creatures, now in the word, now in the divine motion, going through the words and the movements of the creatures, and so on with all the rest. And the divinity, in seeing my extreme littleness within their intelligence, in their word and in their motion, taken by love for my littleness, remained enraptured, and pleased, said, This littleness enraptures us, and in seeing it enter our very acts to do them together with us, to diffuse them upon all, we feel such joy and such satisfaction, in receiving our own glory, that with all our love we give it the freedom to enter into us, to let it operate together with us. In hearing this, I felt all confused, and I said to myself, I am doing nothing, it is the divine will that carries me in its arms. Therefore, all the glory is of his adorable will.